Well, they work.
Yep. I was just thinking about when we chatted with Topher Grace and he was talking about getting his friend to check the back of his head.
Yeah, for magma.
Yeah.
For lava.
For lava.
Yeah.
I was because like the back of my head feels a little funny right now. And I was like, oh yeah, these edibles work.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I mean, we will get to our guest this week, John, and his not only book called Baked, but How I Am Baked because of his cookies he bakes.
Yep.
In a bit.
They work.
I was also thinking, like, cookies are the only acceptable time to enjoy milk.
What? Yeah.
Like real milk.
Yep.
I would never, because I think even though I haven't had cereal in years, which is its own problem, I would oat milk it or I would almond milk my cereal at this point. Like, I don't think I would even go into real milk for cereal, but with a cookie,
yeah,
real milk all day, every day.
Yep, I think you're right. I have no pushback on that. No notes.
No notes.
Yep.
Sweet. No oats.
No. Milk only.
What up, Mary Jane?
How's it going, Mike?
Great. Welcome to Weed and Grub, everyone. This is a podcast about comedy,
cannabis,
culture,
cooking,
calling shit out,
and
cookies.
And books
chocolate
about
chip
cookies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's your favorite chocolate chip?
Like brand, you mean?
Well, do you like a chunk or a chip?
Oh, I like a chip. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, these are chips.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like a chip. I like a Toll House classic. I like a Ghirardelli. I don't like the kind of cheap chips because they don't have the right melt, and I feel like the chips in this particular cookie had a perfect melt.
Yeah, I've skimped on my chocolate chips a couple times at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Fucking bummer.
Yep.
It's
it can
always
be a bummer.
Yeah. Yep. Also, the I don't know what it is about like generic candy from like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, but those Starbursts fucking suck.
I was just gonna say, don't skimp on those either, man. Those things are weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't skimp on like delicious treats. You should just like lean into exactly what you want.
Yeah. Don't get an off-brand Twix. What are you trying to do?
What's it called?
I don't.
Twix.
Walks. I don't know.
You are high.
I'm stoned. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel good.
You do?
Yeah.
It's been a minute since we've seen each other. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I sound crazy. I think I have like wicked allergies right now, but I'm chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote down pollen is the cocaine of nature.
Right.
Earlier this week.
Yeah, you think those bees are like loading up their little sacks full of cocaine?
Mm-hmm. Full of like delicious little pollen lines for, people to sniff and snuff.
I do like stopping to examine when bees have their sacks full and like they're sacked up to go home for the night, Like
after a job well done for the day?
Yeah, and you're like, hey, bee, are you heading home all sacked up? Good for you. You did a good day's work. Now you can go home and everyone will be real proud.
Oh, I bet that feels so good when you land in the hive.
Yeah, like a happy homecoming and everyone's like, you did it.
Look at those sacks.
He's got fat sacks.
The queen is like beckoning that worker over with those big fat sacks and strutting through the rest of the bees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get over here.
I keep picturing their pants falling down as they're walking.
Their bee pants?
Their bee pants filled with sacks, like their cargo sacks. They're just like a little bit of a sag in the strut.
Just dragging them down. Totally.
How do you think they get it out? You think they empty it on a tiny table?
Yeah, probably.
They
probably walk right up and they just like push the pocket full and then they like scoop it all forward onto a table.
That's
exactly.
Awesome.
And then there's someone on the other side of the table, like a different bee who has a different job.
If I was a hamster, this is weird, but if I was a hamster and I saw a bee, I'd be like, man, I wish that I didn't have to do this with my mouth and it was on my legs instead.
Yeah, totally. I can see that.
Yeah, I knew it was weird, but I'm just thinking.
Now I'm just thinking of a hamster with like a bunch of mouths all over its legs because I'm high, and I immediately pictured that, and I was like, gross.
That is gross.
A hamster with like 100 mouths.
Ew.
It's terrifying.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
That's some blade shit.
I know, that's what I saw in my head, and I was like, whoa.
Oh. Anyway, I shouldn't have brought it up. I knew we should have stuck on bees. Much better than a hamster fucking left turn.
I can talk about bees all day.
Yeah. Are you gonna get that tattoo? You think?
A bee tattoo?
Yeah.
I thought about it and I have decided against it. I'm going to get a different tattoo.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't want to hear, but if you want somebody to go with, I'll go with you to get a tattoo and maybe I'll get a new one as well.
Really?
I've been thinking about
it.
I don't know, but I'm in the mood for a little bit of pain in my life, like some permanent pain. And I don't want to do piercings anymore, but I'd like I'd like something newly permanent on my body. I'm having that itch.
Okay.
And also I missed how the needle feels.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. If something's going to be permanent that you believe in and you pay money for, like a tattoo, I think that pain is actually important to it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that's why it's like, ritualized, right?
absolutely. Mark just scratched his arm uncomfortably. Shout out Top Tree Studio Mark. He just scratched his arm like, oh dear God, I would never get a tattoo.
Yeah, here we are high above the Sunset Strip at Top Tree.
I don't know what I want. Maybe something with comedy. Maybe that's too on the, nose.
You should just get the masks. The comedy and tragedy masks.
But both of them be comedy because it's way more.
Oh, that would be so
me.
creepy. If I met some dude who had the comedy and tragedy, but it was both comedy, I would be like, red fucking flag. Run.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Joaquin Phoenix. Nice to meet you.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is a monster red flag.
There are a few tattoos that just now are just straight up red flags that were so cool at one time, and now you see them and you're like, oh my God, a tribal band or whatever the fuck,
Tribal band is the exact one I just thought of. I feel like that is the universal, and Nickelback is such an easy joke. It shouldn't even be a joke, but that is like the Nickelback of the tattoo hack joke. I can't believe you did that community.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to piss anyone off out there who has a tribal band, but
fuck that. They're stupid. They look stupid.
I'm sure there are cool ones. I'm not out here to defend them.
You don't want to be unkind to everyone.
I don't want to be unkind to someone who has that inked on their skin. You know what I'm saying?
I get that.
Like if I had his tramp stamp and people were making fun of tramp stamps, that would make me feel bad.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm still going to stand by it. They look terrible.
Heard.
I can't do it. A tribal is a really good one for me. Yeah.
And also the like lower hip tattoos.
On men and women?
On women, when it was like the low-rise jeans era and everyone was getting like those low-rise tattoos.
Oh, I don't know if I saw it. Like a violin, like a carving in a cello? Like the holes in a cello coming out of the hip bone area?
Just in the your hip bones.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that a lot. It was that as popular as a tramp stamp?
Probably not. No.
Same era?
I just have bad memories of low-rise jeans and the bad tattoos that went along with them.
Low-rise jeans were so intimidating to me.
They were terrible.
I was going through puberty and it was too much. I short-circuited. Low-rise jeans short-circuited my fucking tender pubescent brain.
In what way? Because it was so sexy?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
On everyone. Everywhere. And I just don't think I made eye contact for years. It was crazy how hot they were.
Yeah, those jeans were not good for anyone because the girls who were wearing them were probably like trying to be way too hot. I don't know. I just like wish they didn't feel like they had to try to be hot.
How do you mean?
At that age. Like I remember when I was a teenage girl and all of a sudden I was like, ooh, I'm not supposed to like do certain things and dress a certain way. And I just remember that pressure. And I felt like those jeans were like the apex of that pressure. It was like, dressing up your little bod to look super fucking smoking hot at a young age is just an interesting experience.
Can I ask you more about it? This is like a cool conversation. Is there I'm a woman type of feeling from it, or is it there's a pressure to be a woman in this clothing, like, or is the pressure about like, oh, I want dudes to like what is the pressure?
To get attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. Doesn't matter what kind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no like I am going to be a woman kind of thought. It's literally just look at me. Very simple. Very
I want to
teenage.
shake your hand because you made it. It was amazing. It was a great time.
It was a fucking crazy time.
Yeah. Did you have low-rise jeans?
No, that was after my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was like that age, like 13, it was kind of grunge, so everyone was wearing like really oversized stuff.
It's interesting those cycles because it goes from like fully clothed in 900 layers plus chains to like nothing.
To nothing. The tiniest little everything. Coin slots and fucking
coin slots.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about coin slots forever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. You knew what you were doing at that age to us, right?
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Okay.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Oh,
everyone thinks that everyone else knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Oh, it's some like real life all the time shit, huh?
Yeah. Nobody knows.
Word. Do you want me to get to the news?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we have?
We have a really fun
Grub Gazette.
Gee, of course it's about food. It's all we're talking about. This is actually from the New York Post, so I'm going to, italicize this news story a little bit.
Grain of salt.
One grain.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
1 grain of salt. New York is weighing giving pizzerias and other eateries the okay to sell cannabis-infused food.
Great.
So, New York state officials are weighing whether to allow pizzerias and other places. This is from Aaron Geidelman, a spokesperson for the State of Office of Cannabis Management. One more time. Aaron Geidelman, a spokesman for the State Office of Cannabis Management, confirmed that there have been discussions about awarding such licenses to food preparers, raising the possibility of offering such things as pesto pot pizza and pepperoni with a sweet weed sauce. So they're looking into it.
Wow. Say that last pizza?
Pepperoni with a sweet weed sauce.
Wow. Yeah.
Could be all
Sounds
right.
great.
Yeah, like a sweet tomato sauce, a little bit of sugar, balance out the acid.
So that would be interesting. It would basically be giving the go-ahead for edibles lounges. Just off the bat. Like, that's been such an issue in California, is like getting restaurants that serve weed open because of the licensing and stuff. So this would be basically doing that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it goes a step further, and it would allow places that are already established to also get a license to sell cannabis infused food. So it wouldn't
Great.
just be a restaurant or a speakeasy or a pop-up that is like cannabis food. It's the idea of like Joe's Pizzeria getting a license to also sell like a pot pie.
Fucking great.
Yeah, right? Which would be, well, I mean, Jesus Christ, we talk about like destigmatizing, normalizing, ... all the time on here. And just the very idea that I could finally have a reason to go back to Panera. Like, how nice would that be?
And how nice to give small businesses the incentive to like welcome cannabis into the fucking community, and then have like, get more people access and everything too on that tab.
Yeah,
Fucking
it would
A.
be really good. And I will say, it does make me jealous because California did all of this shit first, and now none of it's fucking happening. And now the Big Apple is gonna do it all right, and I'm gonna be mad jealous because my home state just couldn't fucking get it together.
Yeah, you're gonna have to spend some time in New York.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like, gotta go to New York because it sounds so rad right now.
I know. I'm really excited for everything that's going on right there. Like, it just seems like all of the good energy is flowing back that way. All the good like people are hanging out there and doing cool new ventures, and I think all of our friends who live out there are really excited.
They
about
are.
Like Baked by the River. Our friends Baked by the River, they just got a license in New Jersey.
Really?
Yep.
That's huge.
Yep. I just saw it on their Instagram, so congrats to those guys.
Congrats, Baked by the River.
Yeah.
That's a really good Instagram. Some really delicious food by some really cool people.
Yep.
There's another place in here. It's an East Village place called Stoned Pizza. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna click the link because I'm always curious about. Oh, it's at no, that's gonna be a sponsorship. I'm not saying that. Wow, they're very popular. Well, dang, that's the other reason to go to New York. Check out Stoned Pizza.
Great.
Not an ad. Just love to learn about people making delicious pies. So that's the news this week.
Fantastic.
New York is on track to really kill it.
Congratulations, New York. I'm excited to go and hang out there more and more.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know after that. Like, it's a wild one. How's your brain?
My brain is broken.
Is it?
Like, yeah, I'm definitely like stoned.
I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like all of your sentences are sometimes, like, usually they're commas, but right now they're periods.
Yeah, for sure. It's making me think of that day when you and Michael Walker and I made that cobbler, and I ate more than I just overdosed myself a little bit, and then I had T-Rex arms, and every shot on video is me having T-Rex arms and just drinking water, which is what I feel like right now.
Just drinking water?
Yep, T-Rex arms and drinking water.
Well, we don't have to belabor everything. Let's get to Buds of the Week in our VIB, John.
Let's do it.
So do you want to go first or second for Buds?
I'll go first.
Okay.
My Bud of the Week is Claw Money. Claw sent me her new bath bomb. It's right here. Everyone can check it out if you're looking at the video. And Claw was like one of our early guests on this podcast, and she's such a fucking icon and amazing person in the world. And she's just always so connected and cool. And I'm so glad she like sent me one of her new fucking bath bombs.
That's awesome.
Follow at Claw Money.
That's awesome. My Bud of the Week this week is Alfonso Portela. Fonzie Portela is the Instagram, at Fonzie Portela. And we met a while ago in Sacramento at the Punchline. He was the host of that show. And not only is he a mad funny comedian in Sacramento and San Francisco, but I found out he's also like a mad talented artist.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I could kind of see it because of his comedy. Like, there's an artistic like way of thinking that I was like, I bet you can draw or something. I bet you like have some other skills in there that are really artistic. And he does. He's like really talented. I thought Alfonso was could do calligraphy. because somebody told me he could do calligraphy.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I can do like fancy cursive, but that's about it. And I was like, that sounds like calligraphy to me, man.
Me too.
Yeah. He's talking about like a thick downstroke and a strong upstroke.
Yeah, what kind of pen nib are you using? You know?
Yeah. Come on, Alfonso.
Come on.
So my butt of the week is comedian Alfonso Portela.
Fantastic butt of the week.
Yeah.
That's fucking great. Now we get to our VIB.
Our very important bud.
Who got me baked with his book, Baked, a memoir, sex, drugs, and alternative comedy, John Flynn.
Yeah. I like John a lot.
Yep.
It was our first time hanging.
Yep.
And it felt so natural, so easy, so breezy.
Yep. The sparkle was real.
Yeah.
The energy was up. He's so fucking funny. This book is fantastic.
Yeah. And his cookies are delicious.
And his cookies are fucking delicious. And they work.
Do you want to sit for a second and just be like, oh yeah. How nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
There it is.
All right, let's get to it.
Yep.
Without further ado, here is our interview with
John Flynn.
Well, we're going to start with the hard-hitting questions.
Okay, let's do it.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Thanks for having me. No, yeah, I'm doing well. It's weird. I just have the, I'm here because I have this book out, and it's been like one of those things where like I'm so excited. Like you guys do live shows a lot. You know how like you do a live show and afterwards you're like, oh, people were there, they liked it. This is like, it's like people bought tickets to a show that I did that I wasn't there for, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
When did it come out?
It just came out earlier this month. It's called Baked, semicolon sex, drugs, and alternative comedy. And for many years, I made my living selling pot cookies in New York City. And so it's just a memoir of that, of those experiences. And
Can I read the first sentence on the back?
You go right ahead.
I know I'm not supposed to say this, but selling drugs is the best job in the world. You get to make your own hours, you interact with lots of different people, and every time you show up somewhere, people get excited and give you money. I don't know any of this I didn't know any of this when I started selling pot cookies. I became a drug dealer because I wanted to bedazzle a hat.
That is true. That is how this whole adventure started.
Okay, let's go, John. What are we talking about?
So this all started because I was in New York City doing a lot of stuff at the Upright Citizens Brigade, the UCB, and I was doing the first show I did. There was a one-man show called Theme Park Superstars. About the summer, I worked at Hershey Park in the rock show. And so very exciting, right? And the show ended with the show that I did at Hershey Park ended in a Madonna medley, and so did my show as well. But at Hershey Park, my baseball cap was bedazzled, and the one that I got for the show at UCB wasn't. And so I was like really like frustrated. I felt like I was letting the audience down. Like this hat should be bedazzled. It's a Madonna medley. You got to give it to the audience. And so my friend Jackie Clark, she and I were doing our shows together. She's like, oh, I have a bedazzler in my closet. And so like we had a party that was meant to be me bedazzling my hat. We ended up getting so high we didn't do it. But we watched the movie Showgirls with a bunch of friends of ours. And then from that night, we decided to write a Showgirls parody, which ran at the UCB for like a year. And so it was because of that. And so I started selling pot cookies to raise money to bring Showgirls to the San Francisco Sketch Fest. So that's how it all started.
Wowzers.
That's the first two chapters.
Madonna listens, so this is like going to be great. That's
oh my God,
wild.
yes, Madonna, slide into my DMs, please.
Did you have a good connection to get good weed to make your cookies with in New York?
No, not when I started. But also like this was in the early 2000s, so it was still the time where it was just like weed. Like
Yeah.
weed didn't have a name, it didn't have a category, it didn't have any of the like sativa indica was nothing. It was just like, here's weed. It's in this dirty sandwich, like plastic sandwich bag.
Mhm.
Do you want it or not? It was
Right.
just
There's a
that
little
level.
bit of mustard in the corner because
Yeah.
there was a sandwich in it.
Right,
but
exactly.
whatever.
But that'll knock off the cops and their dogs. Yeah.
And then did you have to experiment a bunch? Did you have someone who taught you how to make the cookies?
No, that was the other thing. Someone had originally shown me this method that involved sauteing the weed in butter and water and freezing it. And then when it freezes, the water and the butter separate because they're different weights. And then once it's like solid, you're supposed to take it out and cut the butter from the ice. But it was such a mess and it didn't always work. And so I experimented with a ton of different ways. Like I talk about all the different ways that I tried. I tried a bunch of different the first people that I had, like when I was just buying weed, before I became professional, they were like kind of rude, and they like still had like a pager, and it always just felt like, I want a better source. And so like I went hunting with a lot of different sources, which you think would be so much easier in New York than it was for me. But I also was living in Astoria, and I didn't want to like have to travel to like Brooklyn or the Bronx to get a good source.
I've bought one of your pot cookies.
You did?
Oh my fucking God.
What?
That's a surprise.
John.
Okay. Yeah, what happened? What?
Okay, so I'm looking here, and it just said, Ben Rogers once
Yep.
said, everyone at the UCB theater has a story that begins with, so I had one of John Flynn's pot cookies.
Mhm.
Sorry to stop down
No,
on your
no,
story,
please.
but everything about my trip to New York just came rushing back. So do you remember when I graduated college and I took all my money from like graduation parties and I bought a train ticket to see Tool in New
Okay.
York? Do you remember me telling you
Yeah,
this
yeah, of
story?
course.
Okay.
Okay, and I knew I wanted to move to Chicago to go
Okay.
to Second City, but I'd never done anything before. And I came to UCB Theater because it's so iconic.
Right.
And at like it was like a midnight
A midnight show.
show
Okay.
at UCB Theater.
Yep.
Not the long one, not the long.
No, the one in
stage,
Chelsea. The one
at
underneath in
Chelsea.
the basement of a grocery store.
I lived across the street.
From that one?
Yeah, I lived at 25th and 7th.
Wow.
Or 25th and 8th. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were right there.
Yeah. Like right across from the Gristidis.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was the basement of a
So we were
Gracie's.
all within a block of each other.
we were all. Who knows?
Oh,
I might have sold
my
you
God.
cookies. You didn't even know.
Definitely.
So wait. So all right. So
I
you're going to
come
see
up
Tool.
and I see Tool, and I'm
Okay.
spending a couple extra days because it's my first time in New York.
Sure.
And I go to see a midnight show, and it has to be you who said like I'm selling these cookies. However you said it was like
Right,
very
right.
pleasing and very trusting, and I was already in love with weed at the time.
Uh-huh.
So I bought 2 of them from you in a bag.
Right there in baggies.
I ate 2 of them that
Oh,
night.
you shouldn't have done that.
No, I shouldn't have.
I'm sure I told you at the time,
Yeah.
but people don't listen. I want to finish your story, but real quick, speaking of, I brought some cookies that I
Oh.
made using the recipe here for you
Yes,
guys.
absolutely.
If you want to have them. So I will say this, they usually take about an hour or so to kick in. Some people think they're
Ooh.
very strong, so I would maybe recommend starting with just a half if you want.
Okay.
On pod.
But we're also just sitting, so you probably won't hit you while we're here. But
They
I'll have a little
smell.
one too.
Wow, I'm
They were
feeling
just made this
brought
morning.
back. Really?
Yes.
Ah.
Mm.
So all right, so you did both those cookies
Mhm.
at
Uh-oh.
midnight.
Mhm.
Okay. How was the show? Did you get lost? What sort of adventure did you go
Oh, these
on?
cookies are so good.
Thank you.
And they're not weedy at all.
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
delicious.
Thank you. There's a recipe on how to make these cookies in the book too. if you
Really?
like.
A must
Yes.
buy. Baked.
Ooh, they're buttery.
hmm
Mhm. It's all about the butter.
Chocolatey? Oh
Wow.
shit, they're
Mhm.
already on my shirt.
Mm.
Okay, so I eat
Okay.
them both, and I watch the show, and then I start walking back to the place that I'm staying. What's up, Mark?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Oh.
just moved it because I was chewing and I didn't want to be a jerk.
Oh,
Oh,
we're
okay,
chewing. This is an on pod chewing.
Oh, gotcha. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I'm so sorry.
That goes on our OnlyFans, so we'll cut you in.
Oh, God. Oh, you guys must make a fortune.
And I remember it kicking all in at once, and I
Mhm.
couldn't find the place that I was staying because
Oh,
like
no.
my parents hooked me up with like a friend of the family.
Your parents.
And I remember I couldn't figure out, they gave me 2 different keys to unlock the door.
Mhm.
And I couldn't remember which key went into which lock. And for what felt like an hour, I was
Mhm.
locking and unlocking the deadbolt and the door because you know how sometimes you have to turn the doorknob key towards the door to actually
Yes.
unlock it.
Mhm. That's what
And
they
so
fix.
I'm locking and unlocking it like a shitty safe cracker, trying to get in, high out of my mind. And finally, they just open the door and they look at me and they're like, "Oh man, get in here." And I just like got in. I'm trying to chat with them like I'm cool. It ain't no thing. Your cookies are fun, man. I had
Thank
a
you.
great night in New York because of you. I cannot believe you're on this pod now.
That makes me so happy to hear that.
That's
Oh my god.
legend.
Oh my god.
Amazing.
What's funny is I have a lot of people, a lot of stories like that throughout the book. Like I emailed a bunch of people who had them, been like, "Hey, I'm doing this book. Do you want to share your stories with me?" And so I have like about 20 stories throughout the book like that. So if I ever do another volume,
Please.
I will get.
And I'll tell it better than just now.
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. We'll workshop it a little bit, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, because
Well, cool.
you're a director also.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
I've directed a
yeah,
lot, yeah.
hit me with any notes you got.
Okay.
bud.
Are you trying to read the book on the podcast right now, Mike?
Oh, I'm high. Sorry. What's up?
They're much faster now. They're really good. By the time you swallow, you're super high. So that's
please.
great. So, but you overall had a good time in New York?
I loved it, but I think I'm more of an LA guy. I think for what my goals are and my
Mhm.
vibe and my thing,
Right.
the pace of New York, the times that I've like stayed there for like work and things for
Yeah.
like a month or so,
Mhm.
at the end of that month, I was ready to come back to LA.
Oh, I get it. I lived in New York for like 17 years and I've lived out here for like 8 years. And I feel like every time I go back to New York, I'm sure this is everyone, like the first day or so, you're like, yeah, New York. It's like it's like a Wednesday night and people are on the street and things are happening and it's great. And then after 3 days, you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm so exhausted. Like, it's just like, it's such a pump, like a hit of adrenaline. And then when you're not used to, like when you live there all the time, it's sort of like if you always have 4 cups of coffee a day, you don't feel weird. But like when you don't have any coffee and then you have like 2 cups of coffee and you're out of your mind and then you're crashing. But yeah, like New York is like that. It's like you have to ride it or you have to just get in and out as fast as you can.
I feel so grateful that I moved to New York first and then came west, because I don't know if I could move to
I
New
couldn't
York
imagine being in New
now
York. Yeah.
at this time in my life. Like, I spent 13 years there and
Yeah.
then came here 5 years ago. And now when I go back, I am exhausted.
Yeah,
Like,
it's exhausting.
yeah.
I also am so glad I lived in New York in my like 20s.
Yep.
Because I think that would be
Because you can be
different too.
scrappy and starving and still have a wonderful time. and
Right.
still
Yeah.
get into
You're
all
like,
the
you don't
cool
care that you have no
parties.
money. You don't care that you're like just buying a $1 slice of pizza and you're only sleeping for like 3 hours a night.
And the subway runs 24 hours and takes
Exactly.
you wherever
You'll
you
get
need
home
to be.
eventually. You'll be
Yeah,
fine.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We just spent 3 days camping at this comedy festival.
Oh my God.
And that's the longest I've ever not showered, and I was beside myself. So I can't
Oh.
even imagine like
Oh, you shower in New York?
yeah, but like I would go for 72 hours just like sweating on the subway from
Oh.
place to place. And
Oh,
just
sure,
going
sure. Yeah,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I
No?
did.
Yeah?
You get, especially in the summer,
Definitely.
you get used to that.
Well, and especially when you're kind of like going hard all night, like going to, any warehouse party or
Of course,
anything,
yeah.
and then you go home as the sun comes up. I had one experience where I was with friends in Dumbo, got on the F train at York Street, and then fell asleep, and I woke up at the end of the F line in Jamaica.
Yes.
And
oh,
I
I've
woke
totally
up-
done that.
Got back to go in the other direction and woke up at the other end. And I
You
was
just
like,
keep,
only in New York.
yeah.
Only in New
Yeah,
York.
that's definitely happened.
Yeah.
I think I got really good, my body sort of at knowing when it was my subway stop, because there were several times where I would like wake up at like 2 a.m. and we were pulling into my subway station, but I also like on my lap there was like a cranberry juice and a black and white cookie that I don't remember buying, but I was like, oh, thank you, thank you, past self, and then like just yeah.
That's
So as a
amazing.
director, when you were in New York, were you doing UCB and other stuff as well?
Yeah, mostly like when I first moved to New York, I was more of like a musical theater person, and so I was doing a lot of musicals and stuff like that. And then I started doing more comedy stuff, and that brought me to UCB.
From where? Where were you before New York, or always New York?
I'm from New Jersey,
Yeah.
a small town called Red Bank, New Jersey, which you might have heard of because that's where like Kevin Smith is.
And there's a great theater there.
yeah, the Count Basie. Or
Yeah.
did they change the name?
I don't know. I just
For a
know-
while, every building in Red Bank was named the Count Basie. Like he was like the most famous person, and apparently, like rumor had it that he like hated Red Bank and like couldn't wait to leave there. But they're like, but here's your theater, and here's your bank, and here's your gymnasium, and all this
We'll
stuff.
never let you go.
So New York was always like familiar to me. Like I would cut school in high school and go up to New York and like see matinees of Broadway musicals and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But where are you? Like what made you decide Chicago?
St. Louis. I think
Okay.
it's that same New Jersey, New York situation.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, you're from St. Louis?
St. Louis,
That's right.
Chicago. It's like right there,
Yeah, no, I did summer stock in St. Louis for one summer. It was a lot of fun.
You liked it?
I mean, for like 3 months just doing dumb musicals at the Robert G. Rhyme, sure,
Yeah,
it was
okay,
fine.
nice.
Yeah.
Wait, what's your favorite musical to either do or your dream one that you haven't
Ooh,
done yet?
That's tough. I mean, like one of my favorite stage musicals, I'm not crazy about the movie, is Dreamgirls. There's really no part for me in Dreamgirls. I've done Chorus Line 6 times. I
Wow.
wouldn't say that's my favorite, but it's the one I got cast in a lot. It's been a while.
That's so cool.
But
How do you feel about like that sort of era of, I feel like probably right when you moved to New York, like the giant musicals were starting to happen, right? That's when Lion King hit and
yes.
Wicked and
Yeah, I
Broadway
remember
sort of
when
really
Lion King did
changed.
hit.
yeah.
I was at the time waiting tables at a restaurant near the theater where Lion King is. So when they were in previews, a lot of like the ensemble members would come and have lunch, and sometimes they would get a little drunk, and I'd ask them like gossip. And initially, the giraffe costumes, if you fell in them, you couldn't lift yourself up. So they would have to. They said almost every night after Circle of Life, they would just be like, the stage manager would get on the mic and be like, pause for giraffes, because like the stage manager would have to come on stage and remove the giraffes from the stage because the way the costume fit. I think they've been changed now, but like there was a lot of stuff like that. Of
It's
just
so
like,
funny to picture them slowly dragging a giraffe stage left.
right. Also, especially like that opening number is like so incredible and majestic if you get to see it, and it's just like beautiful, and then it's like big end of number, and then you just hear hold, and then you see people like drag a giraffe. Like so many children must have just been damaged permanently because of that.
Oh my God. One of my favorite things about Broadway, it's like the disasters that you hear about are
Oh, of course.
unparalleled.
Oh,
anywhere
yeah.
else. Like Little Mermaid, were you in New York when that was
I
happening?
didn't see Little Mermaid. I saw Spiderman.
Oh,
Have you heard about that or seen that?
so many people were injured.
So many people were injured. It was
Yes.
nuts. That musical made no sense. You've heard about it? You look very surprised.
I don't know mermaid or spiders.
Oh, okay. Spider-Man. You've heard of that character?
Yeah.
They did a musical. Julie Taymor, who directed Lion King, she directed a Spider-Man musical, and
Yep.
it was nuts.
It
It made
was.
no sense.
The Green Goblin was just like a set piece, wasn't it?
Initially, yeah, he was fine. There was a number. She got fired halfway through it, and then they rewrote it. But I saw the original version, which was the version you had to see, because this was the version that was just like, oh, this is just unhinged
People
and
are
crazy.
being,
That's
like,
what you
dropping
want.
from this
Yeah, and like you don't
rafters
you
and-
don't want to see a version that's fine. Like you want to see like what is, you know what I mean? Like you want to see like a terrible
Reality
movie
TV.
or a great movie.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to see a competent movie. There was a number in Act 2 called Shoes, where it was just like all these lady spiders just did a number about how much they love shoes, and as spiders they need 4 pairs of shoes each because they each have 8 legs.
Holy fuck.
Like there were like
number.
numbers like that in there. And the it was written by U2. Bono and the Edge wrote the score.
God.
Oh, that I would like to hear, because I'm not a major U2 fan, but I've been surprised a couple times.
Some of the songs are fun, but they weren't written for like a theater. You know, like songs and musicals, you have to understand the words. They kind of have to make sense because they're telling the story. And so there was some of that stuff was like, it definitely feels like U2. Like if I just played you a song right now, you'd be like, this is Bono.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But some of it's fun. You know, like, yeah, you're right. Like every so often they have a good one. So
Yeah.
there's a few like, okay, that's kind of cool number in there.
I remember when the Little Mermaid review came out in The Village Voice by Michael Musto, and he wrote, excuse all the typos because my eyes are still bleeding.
I did used to deliver to some people in Little Mermaid. There was a lot of Broadway people who I would deliver to because at the time when I was doing this, I know this seems insane, but I didn't know of anyone else who was making and selling edibles in New York City. It was like before it was legal,
Yeah.
but even with that, it's like obviously like there's thousands of drug dealers, but I didn't know anyone who was consistently making baked goods or making edibles.
Especially
And-
in that theater scene, right? Like,
Exactly. Well, like that's what happened is like I mean, like
Actors are
one
pretty
or two people.
straight-laced, yeah.
Well, they also just like as I said, like it protects the gift. Like you can get high, but you're not like ruining your voice.
mm,
But apparently, someone told me that Mary Poppins, the ensemble at intermission would all each have half a cookie, so that it would like kick in at the end of it. There was someone who was like an understudy at Shrek who said he had it timed in the show when he could have his cookie, so it would kick in when the show was over. He was on his way home. So there was like a lot of musical theater people. Like there were a couple stage doors I would go to, and there would just be like a stage manager, and I'd like sell them like 40 cookies at a time, and they would, I don't know how they would hand them out.
Wow.
can we explore how you built this for yourself? Because like, you know, it's one thing to like try a bunch of different recipes and then
Uh-huh.
find the one that works and spend a little bit of money to
Sure.
figure that out. But then, like, I don't know, like, do you have like a burner phone, or is it all word of mouth through this
No,
community?
it was all word of mouth. I started the first time I did it, like as I said, to raise money to bring Showgirls to the San Francisco Sketch Festival. I just intended it as like a one-time thing, and I sold them at like a holiday party, like at the UCB holiday party. Not sanctioned by the UCB; they don't sanction drug use, so don't go after them for that. But
unless you're Matt Besser and you do a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
album called Pot Comedy, and
Right,
so on and
yeah.
so on and so on. Yeah.
But afterwards, a couple people were like, oh, hey, I told a friend of mine about your cookies and they want to try them. Or like someone else was like, oh, if you still have some, I'd like to buy some. And so then I was like, and I like just had a day where I just made a couple deliveries and I really loved it. Like it was so fun. Like that's the thing about what it sounds horrible, but like what I loved about the job was just like, as I said, like you go to, like I would travel all around the city all day, just like go to different offices or meet people in the park or like a Starbucks. And everyone was always like, yay, you're here. Like everyone's so happy to see you.
Yeah.
You have like 5 or 10 minute conversations with a bunch of people and it's all like really fun and nice. And there's like weirdly like sort of like I think happens with bartenders a lot too. It's like there's a little bit of psychology about it because there's this weird way where people do give you status. So there were a couple times where I would like sit with people for like an hour and they'd be like, I don't know if I should go to grad school or I don't know about this or like just all this stuff. And I would just like try to be a good therapist for them, which I
Yeah.
like enjoy doing. Like,
Yeah,
like I have
yeah.
no qualifications, but I do like enjoy like listening to people. And, you know, you just try to be like, well, here's what I think here's what it sounds like you want to do. Like, that's sort of what I would try to do.
It sounds
but-
like the sort of like the high maintenance.
Yes,
like that
it was very
kind of
much that. Yeah,
vibe.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally that. But it was all word of mouth. So it initially was mostly through UCB because that was where I first started selling them. But then, you know, friends of friends. And I would say after the first year, I did it for about 3.5 years. After the first year was when I really started getting a lot of people that I didn't know. Oh, but to answer your question, I didn't start with a burner phone. I didn't have a fake name. I didn't come up with any code words. I just sort of like stumbled into it. So I didn't do any of those things I should have done. So like, you know, people just texted me and it was my name and it was my phone number and it was all this. And so it just sort of built that way. And I just got fortunate and that it grew enough that I was like, oh, I can just do this and like whatever other nonsense, you know, like hustling nonsense I'm doing.
Heck,
And this
yes.
is enough. And it's such a great job. I mean, it's the perfect, you're your own boss.
Yeah. Do you know Amanda Duarte by chance?
Ooh, that name is so familiar.
I feel like
I'm
your
sure I
paths
do.
would have crossed
I'm
in
sure.
the world of loving weed and making theater in New York. She's just a good friend who's been on the podcast, and
Oh, okay, cool.
I know that she would have wanted to eat your cookies.
Oh,
So.
not a euphemism.
What is how did you figure out the structure for this book? Because there's a lot of like anecdotes.
Antidotes.
Yes, if you have a sickness and you read this book,
If you get
it'll
too
be an
high, go to
anecdote.
page.
It was mostly just I don't know. I didn't have like a thing going in. I just sort of like was writing the stories and sort of assembled them and started to like move them like you kind of do with like cards and just sort of like okay, this story works to after this. I mean, most of it's pretty chronological.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just love I mean, there's some people's names in here. Just
Yeah.
buy the books because you'll be like, whoa, really? Oh shit. I'm very excited to read this. Also, like the very idea that on the back of it you have Lennon Parham and Jeff Hiller. What's the new show with what's her name? Bridget?
Yeah, someone somewhere.
Somebody, yeah,
Somebody
that's
somewhere?
amazing. Have you seen that?
It's so good.
It's so good. And
It's
Jeff is
incredible.
incredible. Jeff was my roommate during a lot of this time, Jeff
No
Hiller.
way.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was funny. I would be texting watching the show. He's so good on the show, but there's so many times I was like, I feel like he and I had that conversation. You know what I mean? Like he's so grounded and so real. And I'm in no way suggesting like they stole this conversation we had and put it in their show. But I was like, but watching it, I was like, this feels like hanging out with Jeff. You know, like I've had these moments, and it's that show is so incredible. I love that show so
I'm
much.
so excited that they have season 2.
I know,
too.
yeah.
That's great.
And you can get at us for that. Just feel free to reach out.
Yep.
Yeah. Love to show up. Right.
Yep.
Love to be part.
All those folks.
What are those? Do you have those wild cookie tales? Like for me, that night where I couldn't figure out how to unlock a door because your cookies rocked so much is like kind of a wild tale for me. Like when you were testing them for yourself, or like when you were giving them to anyone, did anyone come back to you and be like,
People, tons of stories of like either because so many people, I would, as I said to you guys, like a lot of people think they're strong. Just start with a half. I can't tell you how many times people are like, I think I can handle my wheat cookie. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
So there was a lot of either, oh my God, like, because also the thing with edibles, and this is, I feel like now people know more, whereas I feel like back then, maybe it's because it was New York, people would like have something after 20 minutes, be like, I'm not feeling anything, I'm eating more, even though of like, oh no, it takes a while. You have to do something. So, but yeah, one story was I had this one guy who was a drummer, and he would always he bought like 20 cookies a week, and he had a roommate who I never met. And I guess his roommate didn't know that he had pot cookies. So one night, I think it was over Thanksgiving, he said, because the guy who I sold them to was not there. His roommate had gotten high and got the munchies, didn't have anything in the apartment. He opens up the refrigerator and sees this Tupperware full of cookies.
Delicious.
So he eats 7 of them.
Awesome.
And apparently he went to work the next day and he was a manager at a restaurant and would like just start going up to tables and start talking to them, or like walk away in the middle of talking to people. He started speaking to them in Japanese. He was Japanese. It's not like if you eat some of these cookies, you can speak Japanese. But until finally the other workers at his restaurant called his parents, who lived 3 states away, to come pick him up. Because that's the thing too, of like, if you don't know that this is what's happening to you, you think you're going insane.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Just be like, I'm losing my mind. So like he was like out of state for 3 days, and then like he came back a week later and he told his roommate what happened. He's like, those have weed in them. Like,
yeah,
Yep.
awesome amounts of weed.
Don't eat someone else's cookies.
yeah, don't eat cookies that don't belong to you,
Yep.
even if it's your roommate's.
That's the
I guess
lesson.
is the it's one of those things like I sort of feel bad, but I kind of don't feel bad.
Well,
Did you ever
No, it's like you've got a story out of it. You're welcome.
Did you ever have an experience when you were doing R&D for your own cookies where you like just
Yes, one time that happened because I had a cookie and I was like, oh, all I had to do that day, there's a gym that was like 2 blocks from my apartment in Astoria. And I was like, all I have to do in the gym today is like 20 minutes on the treadmill. So I was like, I'll eat this cookie, I'll walk, 10 minutes to the gym, do my 20 minutes on the treadmill, walk 10 minutes home, get in the shower. And then while I'm in the shower, it'll be kicking in, it'll be perfect. And I'll have that post I've just worked out glow and this and that. Because they are like metabolism based, like edibles, I got on the treadmill and after 3 minutes, I was so high and terrified. I was afraid that if I hit the stop thing, I would like slam into it. And I was afraid if I like tried to jump off, I would hurt myself. So it like literally took 5 minutes of me slowly de-escalating the treadmill until I finally like could jump off and go home.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome too, because I am planning to go do Runyon after this, and now I
Okay.
am prepared.
Yeah. If you do want any edible to kick in faster, just do something like cardiovascular because it'll like get your metabolism going.
Oh, that's so wild.
hot tips?
What about your podcast?
Oh yeah, so I do a podcast. It's called Tool Queens. I co-host it with Mark Rennie, and we guests come on and they bring a movie, and we use a complex and Byzantine scoring system to figure out how gay it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important, very scientific, very vital podcast that we're bringing out to the world. But yeah, you can anywhere you listen to this podcast, you can listen to that. It's a lot of fun.
And you're in search of the ultimate.
The gayest movie ever made, ever.
Do you feel like you've gotten close?
Right now, the number one, we've done, I think, 150 or so.
Wow.
The number one is Female Trouble, John Waters.
Wow.
That's going to be a hard one to outdo.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it, but
You've
I do
never
know
heard of
John
it?
Waters as yeah, I've never heard of it.
Okay, I would definitely. I would think like Pink Flamingos is his most famous one.
Mhm.
I would say Female Trouble is probably like his second biggest one. I mean, it's like Hairspray, obviously, like that's like super commercial and popular. But I would say like Pink Flamingos and Female Trouble are like the most like to me like the most iconic like pure John Waters. You might have heard of it because the Female Trouble is famous for Divine plays this high school student, and her parents, she wants cha-cha heels for Christmas and they don't give them to her, and so she like wrestles with her parents. The Christmas tree like lights. It's like insane. Like it's completely insane and a totally unhinged, great Divine and John Waters movie. I would definitely check that out if you haven't seen that.
Do you know what is at the other end currently? What is the
Right
least?
now, I think the lowest is a tie. I think between Kramer versus Kramer and Good Will Hunting. I believe are the two least gay movies people have brought in so far.
Fantastic.
Which feels right. And both of those cases, when people brought them in, we were like, okay.
Yeah.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Cool.
The divorce drama?
Yep.
Yep. All right.
That's what you're not incorrect. Not Kramer versus Kramer, the musical.
Yeah.
Kramer versus Kramer. The action adventure. No.
Wow, I thought you meant when Michael Kramer was on stage at the Laugh Factory yelling the N-word.
Yeah.
No,
That one's
no.
not very gay either.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty
No.
low on that poll. There.
Yeah,
No.
it doesn't do too well.
I can feel these cookies already. I'm pretty sensitive to
Oh,
this
really?
stuff.
Okay.
And I feel great.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to hear that.
Thank you. It's awesome. Like my skin is feeling nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's good for skincare. Edibles.
Mm-hmm.
How has your life with weed and your relationship with weed changed since you moved to LA? Is it like, are you still making? I mean,
I
obviously you've
don't know.
baked
I stopped
these,
baking
but
cookies before I left.
That must have been so upsetting for so many people. I'm sure
It
they
was,
were devastated.
It was tough.
Yeah.
I go in and out of it. I mean, it's so different now because people have asked me like, oh, California, it's legal. Do you want to sell them now? And part of me is like, I would probably get shut down for like health code violations. You know what I mean? Like my kitchen was fine, but it wasn't, if someone came in testing for stuff. So I don't know. I bake occasionally. I don't bake all that much. I baked a lot for the book just make sure the recipe was still working and I got it all right.
Yeah.
But
What made you want to write this book?
I don't know. It was just something that I did that I just knew it was such a fun experience. There was so much unique about it. And people just seemed to like hearing me talk about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like people would ask questions about it. And so it just felt like,
And it's time.
yeah. I mean, it's such a weird time in history right now.
I mean, weed's legal in your home state.
That's true.
Like
I
you
know.
can you can go to a
Hometown boy makes good.
recreational shop in New Jersey, and
Mhm.
we were just talking about weed, about 420 in New York.
Right, of
and
course.
It's like, yeah, it's happening on the East Coast. It's great.
Yes.
Could we try and set a stage for
Sure.
what UCB was at that time when you were there? Because we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast,
Sure.
and to me, that is like such a as a comedy nerd first and
Uh-huh.
foremost. That time in New York that you were there with UCB,
Uh-huh.
creating shows, being
Right.
in shows, the friends that you have today.
Right.
Like you're a part of like a really important history to me, to be honest.
It was an insane time, and it is sort of crazy to think about it, looking back on it. It's like the number of people who were there and who came through there, and like what was it? But I mean, like when I was there, as you said, like that Showgirls show that I did, it starred Lennon Parham and Jeff Hiller, and Casey Wilson was in it too. Who else? Eugene Cordero. Other people who were around at the time, like John Gabris, Aubrey Plaza, Kate McKinnon, Donald Glover. Like you could do this for hours.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you also creating anything you wanted on those stages? Because I feel like,
more or less. I mean,
yeah.
it was sort of like there was improv. I mean, it was somewhat comedy based, but yeah, I mean, like there's mostly improv and sketch, but people did all kinds of weird shows. I was never on like one of the improv house teams or anything like that. I just mostly did like solo shows and like storytelling and stuff like that. But you're right. It was this really crazy time where it felt like anything could happen to anyone. Like and that's the other thing too, is like, yes, those are big names, but also like every commercial had someone you knew in it. Everyone, like TV shows were starting to get people like Ellie Kemper and Zach Woods that got on The Office, and like Abby and Alana sold
Broad City.
Broad City. Yeah, it was just like an insane amount of people who were so talented. Like, why did all of these talented people show up at this one basement for these couple years? It sort of doesn't make sense, and it's insane. You're right. It was a weird, exciting, fun time because it really felt like anything was possible.
Yeah, especially being at Second City at that time, where I wasn't, but like all of my friends and people I really looked up to were performing for tourists. They're
Right,
doing
yeah.
these like 90-minute long sketch comedy,
Right,
character
yeah.
driven, 2-person group game,
Mhm.
kind of like not middle, like certainly edgy, but we always heard about what was going on in New York. And it's like somebody was wearing a diaper on stage, and then what happened? You know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
like,
there was a
wow.
lot of crazy stuff. Yeah. I always wondered because there was no Second City in New York and there was no UCB in Chicago.
Yeah. Did you ever do those midnight shows that no phones allowed?
I think when I was doing them, the no phones allowed thing was not an issue.
Because
Okay.
there were no phones.
Yeah, like people didn't have
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I mean, like there was a show. I wonder what show you saw, like Dirtiest Sketch Show. Did you think you saw that one? That was one I did a couple times. I also like hosted, but that was just like, yeah, people doing crazy stuff. There was a guy once who shaved his pubes on stage, and I think fucked himself with a plunger when peanut butter. Like there was crazy,
Yeah.
weird, unhinged stuff that we were just like, it's alternative comedy.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Weird way to. I wonder what his train ride back home was with all of those props in his bag.
Oh,
And
I
that
think that
peanut
guy's.
butter in his
I think
butt.
that guy's calling a cab.
Yeah. Let's hope.
You're like, I've got a budget for a cab if I'm putting a plunger with peanut butter on my ass tonight. I can't risk. Maybe I don't get a seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're standing and it's just pushing.
Maybe
oh,
it's like
yeah.
it smells really bad. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't. Yeah, that's
What
what
a
I would do. If I
Time.
were to put something in my ass, I would budget to have a cab later.
I love that.
Definitely.
So prepare for these edibles to kick in, and if you're gonna have peanut butter in your butt, call a cab.
Yeah, call a cab. Just have a.
Please
Yeah.
do us all a favor.
Was that one of the things that you were most proud of at your time, like during your time in New York, were those musicals that you were creating with your friends?
Oh no, that was just like I was doing. Like I was like going off to St. Louis to do Chorus Line and
Yeah.
State Fair, and that was fun. Like I really liked that, and I liked that camaraderie. But it got to a point where I was just sort of bored, and like this stuff, like I was just doing ensemble stuff, and it's like after a while you're just like, okay, I don't want to do this. I want to like say something or do something, or like I have funny thoughts, I think. And so I started doing that, and that's what led me to UCB.
That's awesome. It took me a really long time. We were just talking about this. Mary Jane just started doing stand-up because
That's
I do
awesome.
stand-up comedy.
Uh-huh.
And the idea of like writing for yourself and then doing it yourself it's hard for me to focus on myself and want to do those things. I
get
want to
it.
like give other people the shine
Mhm.
more than I want to like
Oh, sure.
do it. So I really needed to find something like stand-up to write for my own shit, you know?
Right. You don't
Yeah.
need to make anyone else look good.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a weird feeling because I went to theater school, and when I
Uh-huh.
was living in New York, I was doing like weird downtown theater, but
Oh,
not
sure, yeah.
not comedy necessarily. I mean, I was I would do
I mean,
anything anyone.
It was
paid.
hilarious, but
Well,
it
I
was
mean,
not
there was some
intended
stuff
to be.
when I
Sure.
was like, the one where I was wearing a bunny hat and I was getting fucked from behind. It was,
Sure.
so
Sure.
that
Yeah.
was pretty.
You're making a statement.
Mm-hmm.
You wore a bunny hat and got fucked from behind?
Yep, there was a play called White Hot at the Soho Rep.
Okay, sure.
2007 or 8, I think. But
Pre or
anyway.
post plunger, I wonder who was in who's
Oh,
on.
Right
that's
around the same
right.
time,
probably. Parallel thinking.
Yeah.
No one stole it from anyone else. It's
So yeah, it's been an interesting experience to like move to LA, and I mean, so many of my friends are in comedy, and we're in New York too. Like
Sure.
did you know the Story Pirates and that whole crowd?
Oh yeah, I
Chris
knew
and
those
Shaw
people.
and
Yeah,
Reggie Watts and those guys, and
Mhm. Yeah, Reggie Watts. Yes, I
Yeah.
knew Reggie Watts.
yeah, so I was kind of making stuff with that, not with Chris and Shaw, but like with
Uh-huh.
those were my funny friends that I
Oh,
was looking
great.
to
Yeah.
make cool stuff with. And then I moved to LA, and I sort of thought, oh, now I have a cool new opportunity to like make some new friends and do
Do
new
you like
things.
it?
But I'm not a stand-up, and so I've just done it for the first time, and
What did you think? Did you like it?
I liked it. I
Okay.
really did.
All
I
right.
really did. Yeah.
That's great.
It was
Have you ever
interesting.
thought of doing something like The Moth? Because I also teach storytelling. I do storytelling a lot. I know a lot of people A lot of times when people take my class, they're like, I want to do stand up, but I want to do something that seems friendlier and nicer first.
Yeah.
And so they like try storytelling, and they are basically the same thing. I think the two different art forms.
Yep.
Really, I think the only difference is in stand up, the audience is expecting a joke all the time, where in storytelling, we're like, we can listen to some interesting, introspective thoughts, but like the way you deal with the audience is exactly the same. Like you're standing, you're not pretending they're not there or you're somewhere else. You're just like, oh, I'm just talking to you. So in that way, they're very similar.
Yeah.
That's interesting because storytelling is very intimidating to me.
Oh, really?
It is, because I don't know that I'm able to hold an audience's without being funny. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, you can still be funny.
I'd love to be, but I think I think of some friends of Mary Jane's from New York that she's introduced to, like monologists and people who can like the structure and the craft and the way that you can like turn a story is like really intimidating to me.
I get too, like, because with storytelling, there's something like with stand-up, which I've done too, where like, if you're not liking my jokes on relationships, I can pivot to something else. But if I'm like telling you this story, I'm like, you don't seem to be into this story, I can't really pivot to another story, or like,
I just start apologizing.
Yeah, there are sort of differences. But most stand-ups, I think, especially once you're doing more than like 10 or 15 minutes, are bringing storytelling into their sets.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's in like 30-second bursts.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Like, what's his name?
Who? Mike Daisy?
Yes.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that who you think of?
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine. A
You know Mike Daisy?
friend of the pod. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
That's I mean, Mike is singular in what he very singular in what
Yeah,
he does. There aren't
I-
many people who do what he does because it's extemporaneous with just like he has a structure in his head, but then it's not a rehearsed story like someone, you know, or he's not reading anything.
He's not like doing like a one person. I mean, he is doing one person shows, but it's not like a scripted show where like someone else could take this script
right.
and go off and do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I have seen him perform, and I think he's more of like the Spalding Gray model, where it's like he has an outline, and he had like Spalding Gray had a very specific aesthetic of like the table, the microphone, the water, and then the notebook. And he would refer to the notebook and have stuff that would, but it wasn't here's a set script.
How did you write this? Did you walk around and say it out loud and record it, or did you sit down every day, smoke a bowl, and get to typing? Like,
no, it was a little bit of, I'd sort of kept, while I was doing it, a lot of times I was like, oh, I knew that there was something to this. Like, this was a unique world that not a lot of people knew about, or like when I would meet people and they would find this out about me, whether it was because I was selling them drugs or just met them socially, that people just had so many questions. So I took a lot of notes. And then, no, I did it, but I'm not someone who, I like to handwrite.
ooh, yeah.
I like handwriting a lot. I will handwrite, then type it, and then print it out, and then hand edit the printed out version.
Pen
it's
or
how
pencil?
I like to do it. I do pen usually, but
Legal
I don't.
pad?
No.
No, printed
Printed
paper.
out on printer paper. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just always curious. Are you lefty?
I am.
Same.
Yeah,
You're, as you're talking about,
I'm
you're
telling
doing
as
your
I'm telling
left
you, I'm using my
cool.
left hand.
I just love. I'm always interested in people's techniques.
Yeah,
how
I
they get
find
things
that
done.
better. For some reason, writing on my laptop doesn't work as well for me. It feels disconnected somehow.
Yeah.
Whereas like by using your hand to write it, for some reason to me feels more focused or keeps me.
You're getting your brain onto the paper.
Yeah, it's like you have to do extra things to make it work, I guess. I don't know.
Damn. I know we have to wrap up, but before we do, is there any chapter or anything that comes to mind within the book that we haven't touched on that you're like, people, if you're gonna read this book, this is
do you know what? This
thing.
might be the chapter that you really love too, because you did theater. During the time was in an original musical about figure skating that starred Oksana Bayul.
Oh my God.
And the entire stage was turned into an ice skating rink. So that's a chapter in the book that is pretty bananas.
Were you on skates?
I was not on skates because I played one of the reporters, but everyone else, all the characters in it had two different actors. So there was the skating actor and then the actor who sang and did the scenes.
Oh my God.
But the whole thing was on ice.
Where?
On Long Island, theater on Long Island. And people got hurt all the time. Like it was like Spiderman levels because they didn't have enough like ice shoes is what they're called, which are like weird rubber things you put around shoes that make them cleats. So they would just tell, because there were scenes on ice, you know, it wasn't just the figure skating. So people would have to go on stage and try to not move at all, but also like do a scene. And so, yeah, it was bananas. I
Butt
could literally
clenching.
talk about that for 3 hours, that musical. It was nuts.
It sounds legendary. It's like I can only imagine the butt clenching of the like trying to use your whole body to
Right,
stay
right. I need
perfectly
to-
still so you're
right,
not
and-
wiping out.
So I'm not, but I also need to be in the moment and I need to act and like be this character.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
it was
It
nuts.
sounds like a fiasco.
It was.
How
You are
long?
correct.
How long did it run for?
It ran for the time it was supposed to run. So it was
Okay.
supposed to run. Well, initially it was announced for 5 weeks, but they secretly had 2 more weeks.
Was it union?
It was mostly union. Yeah, there were some. It was one of those like regional theaters where like there's a few non-equity contracts, but it was mostly union.
I can't believe they got away with that.
It was truly crazy.
Wow. Wow. But everyone got their weeks. Everyone got paid.
Everyone got paid. Everything's fine. No one actually got hurt.
Well,
yeah.
and Oksana, was she?
She was very nice. I didn't deal with her that much. She never did any drugs. I should say that. She was very nice, very professional. There's something interesting and funny about her is, you know, she's used to being the center of attention. And I don't say this in a mean way, but like after, you know, like when you're doing a show, like you have to give notes to other people and, you know, other things need attention. If she got really bored, she liked to get naked.
Wow.
She would literally like strip down completely naked and like skate around on the rink. She would one time giving notes, she just like dropped on all fours and pretended she was like a dog pissing on people. It was just one of those things where like, and you were always just like, oh, Oksana, you delightful little imp. But she was very nice, but just like kooky, you know, just, but also like she won an Olympic gold medal when she was 16 years old. Like, yeah, you're screwed for life.
I was going to say, yeah.
That happens
You've
to you.
been trained to do that since you were
Yeah.
2.
Right. And also it's like, oh, that thing you've trained your whole life to do. We don't really need you to do that anymore. Good luck with your life.
Yeah. Bye.
Wow.
Fade into obscurity now.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wild.
Well, it sounds like my door lock story isn't going to make it into the second volume after that.
We'll still work on it. Don't worry.
We've got more memories to make. Maybe you can make one today
Yeah. Oh,
That's
with
right.
these cookies.
These are
in
awesome.
Runyon.
Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Thank
Sean.
you guys so much.
Thank you. Where can everyone find your book?
Oh, yeah. So you can either get it on Amazon. Again, it's called Baked, Sex, Drugs, and Alternative Comedy. Or if you want an autographed copy, you can go to my website, which is just John Flynn Comedian. It's $5 more because we have to sell more if we don't sell on Amazon. But that extra $5 or any more if you want to donate goes to the Last Prisoner Project, which is a nonprofit that exists to help overturn drug convictions. So
Yeah.
if you want an autographed copy, all the extra money is going to that.
That's wonderful.
So that's, yeah, John Flynn Comedian. Or if you just want a regular copy, you go to Amazon.
Either way, win-win.
Yeah,
Win-win.
exactly. Everybody wins.
And people can follow you online at...
Oh, yes. On Twitter, I'm jfly99. And on Instagram, I'm John_Flynn99, I think. I don't know. Go to jfly99. You'll find it. There'll be links to that. Or you can check out my podcast, 20 Queens. Comes out every Wednesday. And there's also Patreon. But it's a lot of fun. A lot of great comedians and people on it. You guys will have you on it soon. That'll be so much fun.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
I already got the movie. I'm
Oh,
ready to
really?
rock.
No, you don't.
Oh.
I'm going to fight you.
Oh,
I can already tell I'm gonna
okay.
fight you.
All right.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. All
We'll
right.
see.
Okay,
All
cool.
right.
Very exciting.
And get this book also because the recipe is in here and I feel
The recipe.
awesome right now.
Yes.
And these are delicious. So thank you so much.
I have this horrible now vision of you like coming in and be like, hey, it's an hour later. Do not buy this book. This cookie has turned on me. I'm speaking Japanese to you right now.
And you can follow us at Weed and Grub on Instagram. WG@weedandgrub.com is our email. Slide into our DMs, email us, leave us a 5-star review, leave John a 5-star review on his podcast, bump us up in the algorithm. And Mary Jane, how's your sparkle?
Great. You're talking real fast. So I think we're both
the
feeling
sugar
really
in the
good.
cookies.
Oh, am
Yeah.
I talking fast?
You are so amped and it's awesome.
I also talk fast, so I
Yeah.
think that might be it.
I do feed off energy.
Yeah.
I'm very open and interesting.
Wow, keep talking about that.
Say more.
No.
Oh, we're bringing it home?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
shut it down.
No, I feel really good. My sparkle is my I can tell when the space between my cheekbone and my eyebrow feels tight.
Oh,
You know? That's how I feel.
We're gonna re-record this. I'll
Tight
slow down.
eyes. Yeah.
You might want to listen. This might be the one podcast you want to listen to on half speed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Also, thank you to Mark. Thank you to Top Tree Studios. This has been an absolute delight, man.
Yeah.
Please
Thanks
come
so much
back
for having me.
anytime.
Oh, I would
Please,
love to.
anytime.
Of course. The spread. Are you kidding?
All the time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.